Hey guys, it's Pete for Beef Anxiety here. Welcome into today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing, pause this video, go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get into today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is, ask how your mental health is today. Guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety, the mental health podcast breaking the stigma that mental health is really talked about enough. My guest today is the creator of a mind-clearing, body-clearing, goal and success-clearing system. Also is a #1 Amazon bestseller, chiropractor, physician, and body and mind expert with 28 years of experience. Please welcome in the one, the only Dr. Alain, is it Salas?
Yes.
I got it. Awesome.
Salas. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing so great. I'm so glad you're here. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about yourself? That's a lot going on there. You've got 28 years experience and you're all over doing a bunch of different things. So what got you ended up to where you're at right now?
Well, it's kind of life, right? Our life. Okay, hold on. We're wired with life, right? Okay, I'm sorry, I had a little bit of some technology problem here. Yeah, basically, try to find some solution for my problem, because we all do have, issue that we have to confront, right? And so basically I used to live on a sailing boat in south of France, right? And so you think, oh, perfect life, right?
And that would be amazing.
Yeah, and I used to rent boats. And but after like almost a decade, doing that, like the last year, what happened to me just kind of had, I don't know how to describe it. I had a calling, and I saw myself helping other people. And so, when your mission in life has been given to you, you just cannot say no. You have no doubt, right? So I started to investigate and look around me. And in my family, nobody was into the healing things, right? And so I started to ask my clients, right? And so one day I asked one of my clients, he told me, you know what, Alan, I've got a Chinese doctor that's coming over to visit me. Do you want to meet him? I said, heck yes. Yeah. So sure, I met the guy, right? And after we decided at the end of the season, when I will be done working, with tourists, I will come to visit him. And he gave me 3 books to read. And so to make a long story short, I read this book and I went to see him and inquire about Chinese medicine, right? He was a French guy. His name was Philip. And he told me, well, if you really want to know what you're doing, you know what you have to do? You have to go to China, learn Chinese, study old texts. And I asked him, how long is it going to take me? And he said, Philip told me 10 years. I said, oh boy, I was 30 years old at that time. I just do want to practice one day. And he looked at me, I always remember, and he told me, you look strong. Why not chiropractic? I said, what's this? And so he gave me some information, and some people to contact. Some French people went to America to study. And sure, I did get some information from the school. I have that translated by my best friend. She's an English teacher, right? And what was fascinating to me, Pete, was they call the innate intelligence, our own ability to heal ourselves. And so I got very intrigued, right? And so sure enough, I went to America. I got my first treatment there with a French lady, actually, from my hometown. I mean, that was crazy. And so I sold my business, my boat business, and I came to America to become a chiropractic physician, right?
Yeah. So, that's so awesome, though. I mean, you just stumble into it. You're checking out Chinese medicine, which is always interesting because a lot of their principles are based on energy and all natural cares and things like that. People seem to forget that. It's like everybody wants to push drugs, but really our own body has the capability of healing itself. And a lot of people don't realize your gut health plays a lot of factors into that too, which was real fascinating when I talked to somebody about that. We were discussing that, and I was like, that's crazy to know that that one system right there basically can help you feel a lot better. And it's the same thing. It's like all the food we put in now, it's like you put in junk, you get out junk, but if you put in good stuff, you get better energy coming out, and a lot of people are just like, oh, well,
They want to live in the fast of now, and it's like that's great and all, but that stuff's not good for us. That highly processed stuff and everything else, and it affects your mental health too. And I don't think people realize like all the connections of all that kind of stuff that goes. And you being a mind and body guy, you'd already know all these things already.
Yeah, basically, I will add to what you said, which is true. Obviously, what kind of junk you put in your mind. You see what I mean? We always think about junk food and all that, and that's really true.
Good
And
point.
so,
Good point. Very good point.
yeah, exactly. And so what happened is like, I did that chiropractic things, right? And so just to explain, a little bit, why I decided to be a mind body guy, right? And so, so I will treat you, right? So you will get some result, and after pretty soon you plateau, and I will tell you, Steve, Pete, I'm sorry, you just need to come back and get a treatment just to maintain.
Yeah.
And so to me, it didn't work as well as I was expected, right? Because I know I know few things in life, that for sure, I'm sure 100%. One of them is this. It's kind of a law of a cause and effect, right? And so for every cause, there's an effect. For every effect, there's a cause. So I don't believe in luck and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think there's always a reason for everything. And so when you've got a problem in life, Pete, and that problem can be anything, a health problem, can be a relationship problem, can be a prosperity problem. You need to know two things. If you know those two things, there's no more problem. You don't even think about your problem. You moved on. Right? And so what are they? Number one, you need to figure out what's causing your problem, right? Because if you don't know what's causing your problem, how can you fix it? Right?
Exactly.
And number two, you need to know how to fix it. If I tell you, your neck problem is caused by your nerve that are trapped, and you say, okay, what we're going to do about it? Well, I'm not sure. That's not going to work very well for you and me, right? And so,
right, exactly.
So you need to know how to fix it. And so, this was very important to me. So when I said, maybe, this is not the cause of a problem, right? What I've been told, right? Maybe this helps the innate intelligence, but maybe we can go even further towards the cause of a problem. And maybe the way to fix it is not complete, right? And so when I started to study that, I realized that, hey, you know what? 20% of our nervous system goes on the side of your spinal cord, right? Exit right there and go everywhere in your body. That's what chiropractic help. Only 20%. Yeah. So I said, why not treating 100%, right? So I became a cranial specialist, right, to help you to relieve the stress of your brain and your spinal cord, right? So I was happy with that. So I had a better result, right? But after what I realized, it's like, you know what, you may have some inflammation, right? Some what we call chemical stress in your body. Why not, making sure, because people were complaining about joint issue, and it was in the joint, and you can manipulate whatever you want. When there's fire, in your joint, it's not going to make a big difference at all. So I started to study that, and I made a practice out of it. I had 4 employees. And you will come basically to my office, and I will do what we call muscle response testing. So your body will tell me basically what's wrong, right? And you could feel that your arm will get weak when you've got under stress in some of your organs. And also we figure out what's causing your inflammation or your fire in your body. So I was pretty pleased with that. And again, I was seeing like 250 patients a week. I mean, I was living the American dream, Pete. Everything like, okay, the big house, best neighborhood. And
right.
I met a French.
Listen, you forgot Amazon bestseller as well, too. You got to add that in there, too, man. That's not a lot of accomplishments people can say, too. You know what I mean? You're a published author, all that stuff. But that's still achievement in itself, though. I mean, that's great, though. I mean, those are all accomplishments people to achieve as well.
Sure. But the thing is like, so I got married to that French woman, right? I met in a bar in Kansas City. We had a daughter. So, okay, I was living life, right? And I was, doing my mission, helping lots of people. But you know what, Pete, when you think you've got it all and your destiny is much more than you have set up for yourself, well, life will, take care of that, right? And so what happened to me within a year. So I ended up divorcing. Why? Because my mind was always focused on the practice, and the business aspect of it, right? Yeah. And again, I thought I was doing the right things. And so, but when after the day of work, right, I will go back home and I will be there but not present with my family. So of course my marriage went down the drain fairly quickly, actually.
Yeah.
And so within a year, here's what happened to me, Pete. I ended up divorcing, right? Of course. And after, so I was a mess. I felt depressed, anxious and all that, right? And so I lost my passion. I lost the juice, for what I was doing. And so my practice went from thriving to failing, of course. And the cherry on the cake, I got diagnosed with early stage of colon cancer. So here I am, telling you what to do in order to prevent the big disease, the cardiovascular disease, number one killer, the number two killer in this country, which are cancer. I do my own program, I get sick. So I have to revisit myself in so many aspects of my life, in my health, in my job, right? Because what I was doing clearly was not even working for me, right? Yeah. And so in my relationship, obviously, and in my business, in my prosperity. So that's what started to, I needed to find out what happened, but I knew one thing for sure, because I'm pretty intuitive, and I knew one thing. There was something within me. It was not like, I was not a victim of circumstances. I was not, it was not, I could have blame on my wife and all that. But I knew, Pete, that there was something within me that was pushing me to sabotage my health, my relationship, and prosperity. And that's this, and since this has been my quest to find out what happened.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And I get that too. And I like the fact that all these things happen for you to get to where you got to be. I think it's all a test. It's basically pushing you to where you got to go. It's like the universe is telling you, hey, Alan, you got to go this direction, man. You're like, this all may seem great. Don't get caught up in the limelight. Don't let it fool you. But hey, wake up call, man. We need to move to a different direction. This isn't your place. We need to move you to another calling. And that's that's when you start heading towards mind and body and all that other stuff, correct?
Exact, because I had down pretty much the physical aspect, like I told you, right? Yeah. I created my own energetical technique, actually, because I always got some insight out of the blue, right? And I started to do that. And for the chemical aspect, I had it, but we also, so that take care of the physical stress, chemical stress. What about the emotional and mental stress? So I said, well, so I started to learn some technique, some emotional technique, and I would say, oh, you've got trapped emotion there. We need to release. But I knew, Pete, I don't know how to tell you that, but I knew there was something more that I had to investigate. So I went down and said, okay, what is the mind? Because we all talk about mind and body and all that, but what is truly the mind? And what I found out was really mind-blowing. And it's like some information that we can have access very easily, but nobody seems to care or nobody seems to know. No, I just don't know. It's a mystery. It's still a mystery to me to this day. And so what I found out, several things. First of all, we're living in two separate worlds at the same time. So what do I mean, Pete? There's what we call the outside world, right? Which is called also your conscious mind. Yeah. So basically, it's your self-identity. Who do you think you are? Your perception of reality, what you are aware of, like your thought, your emotion, your behavior and your action, right? And so it's who you think you can do, Pete, or you cannot do, Pete. Right, so that's the outer world, and after there's a mysterious, a secretive, a hidden world, but we're going to call it very simply the subconscious world. And so what the subconscious world does, well, it just record everything you have been doing in your life from age 0 to now. Everything has been recorded there, right? But also all your skill as a podcaster, maybe as a father, maybe what kind of job you're doing, your skills are stored there. All the automatic function in your body that you don't have to think about it, like your breathing, like your heartbeat, your digestion, and so on, right, are coming from your subconscious mind, right? Yeah. And so I got you. I was wondering, how powerful is that subconscious mind, right? And so that's when you guys listening to that, if you're standing up, please sit down. And if you are sitting down, if you can buckle up, because what I'm going to tell you is going to make you rethink who you are as a person. What is your mind? I mean, those essential question, right? I mean, there's no more essential question than who I am, right?
Exactly.
That's going to make you rethink, right? And so what do I mean by that? Number one, let's go soft first. Let's not be too shocked about it first. Right. So first one is like your conscious mind processes data at 11 bits per second. Your subconscious mind processes data at 11 million bits per second.
Jeez.
So you see what I mean? 1 million. So it means like I'm going to perceive data with my conscious mind, but there's so much more data that goes into the subconscious mind that we're not even aware of.
Right. That's crazy though. 11 million. That's wow. Like that's insane. Like, I mean, I've always been fascinated with the brain. Me and another guest had a conversation about said negative self-talk really quick, and she said that they had discovered another layer in your brain where that exists. And I'm just like, I'm not fast. That didn't shock me because I know the brain is a lot more powerful than most people realize. They just don't care enough to unlock the potential, or they're just too worried about what happens if you lock that potential out.
But yeah, so we'll talk about the brain. I will give you because actually my number one Amazon was about, the title was, it still is, The Brain Power Secret, right? So I got intrigued by the brain too, but the mind, we're talking about something that is totally different, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes we confuse the mind and the brain. But what I want to say, so the second thing, so that's here, guys, buckle up. It's coming right now. So your subconscious mind, so picture that. It's who you think you are, right? What you're aware of your mind, right? It's only 5 or 10% of your mind. Meaning the subconscious mind is 90 to 95% of your mind. Meaning that if you want to heal, transform yourself and grow the way it is now, we focus only our subconscious on our conscious mind. So it means we're using only 5 or 10% of our mind power or brain power. So I thought about it naturally. I said, why don't we bring the subconscious mind to the party? Right. That would be great, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
And so that's what the mind clearing, the program I created, is about. Let's use 100% of our mind power, right? And so that's another world now. Now we're talking about something where we don't even know. We're not even familiar, right? Because we don't have access to it. Why? Because we're not speaking the same language. Pete, I used to travel a lot, right? Because when I was done with the season, renting boat and stuff, I was, traveling with my boat, but also I will buy an airfare ticket and go to the South Hemisphere, right? Because I was a sun chaser, right? That's basically what I was. And so I will go, and the most frustrating things that I experience is like when there's a good guy, right? And you think you've got connection and you can tell, you want to communicate with that guy and you don't speak the same language, right? Yeah. So it's very frustrating. And that's in my field of the mind, and what we're going to call pretty soon the limiting belief. That's what I feel it's happening. They tell you to do something, but they're not talking really the same language. Why? Because it takes so much time, to change your mind, right? And to be able to adapt. Because there's one thing I didn't tell you, it's like we are programmable. We are all programmed. You are programmed. I am programmed. Everybody listening to all, like the audience, has been programmed.
That's true. So that's very true, though. But think about it, like that's how like a lot of media gets you, though. They program you to think one way, so they keep feeding you the same things in a repetitive motion. As we all know from school, we learned that repetition is the key to remembering things a lot of times, and that's how they get you. So they keep sending the same message, but they keep changing the way the message is coming. So they're still getting you because there's that the like, what is that hidden message that's in there a lot of times that a lot of people don't realize is coming through, and that's how advertisement works so well. Is that they get you and then they start hitting you with the little hidden messages in there that you're not seeing there are coming through as well. And that's why a lot of them, the real effective ones, get you to remember things like, like McDonald's has all those commercials, it has a real tasty, real good jingle that you remember, but all those things you remember is because they want you to keep talking about it and keep thinking about it all the time. Like, so when you get one of those things stuck in your head, it just keeps going, bouncing around. They've already won right there. That's it. That's all they had to do is get you to start thinking about it. And then you start doing the jingle, and then you get other people start doing it too.
That's very true. But there's even more insidious way we get programmed. So for example, let me give you an example. From age 0 to 7, our brains got different brain wave, right? So I mean, we're kind of living, we're like sponges and living like a kind of a hypnotic stage, right? Or state, right? Like especially with theta waves, right? After 2 years old, right? And so what's happening is like what you perceive on the outside, you assume it's all good, right? It's the way it's supposed to be, right? Good and bad, it's the way it's supposed to be. So you make assumption, right? And so if you reinforce that assumption enough, it become a program, and those programs are stored in your subconscious mind. Yeah. So you're not even aware that you've got programming, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so let me give you an example, right? So let's pretend there's and after you've got two kind of program. I have to say that first. You've got programs that are serving you, right? It's kind of when your mind is working for you instead of against you, right? So we call that empowering belief. And after you've got other programs that are not serving you any longer, it's kind of like your mind is working against you. And we call that limiting belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so let me give you an example of a limiting belief, right? So let's pretend there's a little girl, Pete, and that little girl, she's got a dad, and the dad is an alcoholic. So he got drunk every night, come back home, beat up the mom. What do you think that little girl, when she grows up and can have a romantic relationship, what kind of man you think she's going to attract?
She's going to attract the one that abuses people, or abuses the woman, of course, because that's what she was taught as a kid. She sees that and thinks that, hey, this is what a relationship should be like versus what it really should be like.
Okay, I agree. 80% probably of the people will agree. But let me make two comments about it.
Okay.
Number one, I talked to that lady, right? But now she's a woman, right? And I talked to her and say, "Hey, do you enjoy to get beat up like your mom?" She's gonna say, "Heck no." So the conscious mind is gonna say no, but the subconscious mind has been programmed as men are predator and women are prey.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Good point. Good point.
Okay. Number one. Number two, how she's gonna attract that guy? Right? She's gonna say, "Hey, you come here, shake his hand. You ready to beat me up, right?" That's not how it works, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, I
Pete,
get you.
it's kind of our subconscious mind have to be connected. We are connected, and we're not aware of, obviously, the subconscious mind, right? So we are connected to each other. It doesn't mean like we are one. It means like, yeah, we are one, but it doesn't mean that we have to love everybody, right? That's not what I mean. We are connected. Yeah. And so that's how it's going to work. She's going to meet the guy, right? And so her subconscious mind is going to whisper to the conscious mind and say, look at this guy. He has been bullied. Now he's a bully. He's got the predator program. That's what we've been looking for, right? And she's going to fall in love with him. Now, the subconscious programming of this guy, right, is going to talk to this guy and say, look, she's got the prey program, right? And we got the predator. It's a good match. I'm going to fall in love with her. And so they're going to, that polarization is going to make them attract to each other. They're going to fall in love, right? Okay, yeah. And so there's 3 different case scenarios that can happen to that woman. She marries the guy, gets stuck with him in that relationship for the rest of her life. We all have heard or know people like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Number 1. Case scenario number 2, she get with that guy. We all agree with that, right? She get with that guy and after get tired of get beat up, right? So it's kind of like there's a fire, you put your finger in the fire. Once, oh, it hurts. Twice, oh, it hurt. And right. You say, well, I'm not going to put my finger again, right? And so usually with women, that's what they're telling me. They're telling me 2 things. The first thing, hey, Dr. Salas, don't talk to me about men. I'm done with men. They're not good for me. Has been well established. I don't want to be in any relationship. So it's kind of like the first step of like the fire, and the finger. So it means they are aware that this is not good and they make the choice, the conscious choice, that they don't want this kind of relationship. They stay away from it. But through our life experiences, we can, of course, heal, right? So the true healing will be like she's going to attract a totally different man. The opposite, actually, a man that is very nurturing to her, that is kind and honest to her, that is respectful to her, that sees her as an equal. And that's how you know that you have been healed.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. So my only question to that, though, is that, okay, so if she as a kid seen the parent getting beat up, but when she meets that other guy, isn't her subconscious or whichever one's going to fight back because they're going to be like, wait, this is not what we want. This is not what we saw as a kid. This is not what we're looking for. This guy doing the direct opposite of what she's seen as a kid and was programmed as a kid. Wouldn't something fight it back though? Be like, hey, and then, at first it'd be weird to her, obviously, because this is not something she's used to. Say she's been in an abusive relationship before, and then she finds a guy that actually treats her with respect, things like that, and all that kind of stuff. Wouldn't one part of her mind sit there and fight back that actually be like, hey, no, let's not do this because it's not what we like. We like this other thing. We like the bad. We don't like the good guy. The good guy, we don't like him. He's too nice to us. This is not what we're used to. Am I not correct thinking that though?
Well, here's the thing, 5 or 10% of the mind is going to say, no, I don't want this, of course.
Yeah.
But 90% of the mind want it. So who's going to win? I mean, there's not even a doubt, right?
Yeah.
So at the first place, why did she attract the guy? Because of that negative programming, that limiting belief. So, we think we're in control. We think we are making choices. You're not. You're not with your conscious mind. And for every choices, that's how it works. Like the habits and things like that are taken over by, our subconscious mind. It's automatic process, right? But even big decision and all that, 95%, it's estimated according to research, 95% of our decisions are made by our programming in our subconscious mind. And after we justified our decision, with our 5 or 10% of our mind, but analytical mind. So, who are controlling us? Our limiting belief, whose negative programming that, force our conscious mind to act, and to think, feel, behave, and act accordingly.
Yeah. No, yeah, I get that. That's what I was wondering, because I'm thinking, like, because if they're already programmed, and a lot of times I know people get in those situations and feel like real hesitant, or they get real paranoid because, like, okay, so when is this going to go hit down? When is this going to go downhill from here? Because they're like, okay, well, the other guy was nice and he perceives as being nice, puts a mask on and shows that he's great. But then behind closed doors, he could be like a covert narcissist. He could just do all these things behind doors, but put a mask out there so everybody in the world thinks that he's such a nice guy, this and that type of thing. You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, but the subconscious mind knows. That's the most important things. Remember, I told you that, like, the subconscious mind, her subconscious mind, she said, oh, he's a bully now. And even though consciously you said, oh, it's a totally, like you said, nice guy. No, it doesn't matter. If you've got the program that match it, that's how you're going to pair up.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, well, that makes sense. Oh, that's why I was curious. But that's so interesting, though, to know that your subconscious mind makes up that big of percentage, though. But
95% of our decision making.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of people don't even think about it that way. It's crazy.
It's mind blowing. It's ridiculous, And again, to help that, what we focus only 5 or 10% of our mind. How can we be successful? It's not possible. It's not possible. So the case scenario number 3, to be done with my example, right? She can come to me, for example, or some hypnotherapy, somebody who deal with a subconscious mind, and we can reprogram the mind. I mean, look at all the suffering that you don't have to live. Maybe she had kids along the way and all that, and not being guaranteed that, you're going to have like the output that you want, which is a different relationship, right? So imagine all aspects of your life that are dictated by our subconscious mind. Right. And you know what? There's nothing you can do about it, right? So you can relive the experience and hopefully, hoping, like literally praying that you're going to be able to get a different output. But that's why we say, why am I always doing this? Why am I attracting this kind of man? Why am I always anxious? Why am I always depressed? That's because, remember, the cause of a problem, you need to identify it first. What is your cause of a problem? Your cause of a problem is your limiting belief in your subconscious mind, period. That's it. Exactly. That's what it is. And they are dictating your present and mold your future. So if you want to change your present, if you don't want to be anxious anymore, we need to get rid of this program, whose limiting belief that creating that anxiety. Like that, you won't be anxious in the moment, and in the future, you're not going to be attracting some situation that will cause you more anxiety, because that's how it works.
Very true. So what kind of methods do you use to get to there, though? I mean, I know, it's like you said, everybody only uses 5% to get to that subconscious level. What kind of techniques do you use to get to that level?
Yeah, so you need to speak the same language, right? Again, it's like, if I've got audio problem now in that podcast, right? So if I cannot hear you, you cannot hear me. I'm going to do some language. I'm going to write down some stuff. I mean, that's going to be, we can communicate a little bit, but how deep we're going to go, right? And how much knowledge we're going to be able to exchange, right? And so that's what it is, because they told you, you just need to identify the limiting belief, and after you need to feel the opposite, and you need to do affirmation on that, and hope for the best, right? But I mean, it takes a long time, lots of repetition. So in my book, when it takes a long time and there's lots of repetition, it means you don't speak the same language.
Yeah, definitely.
right? Because this will take a long time, right? And lots of repetition, to make sure you understand what I'm trying to say, right? With my sign language, and also write it down, right? Because I have to write it down, you need to read it, and it has to be short and concise and all that, right? And so what is the language of a subconscious mind, right? That's the question that counts. Exactly. And so the language, exactly. So the language of subconscious mind, well, our subconscious mind communicates with us, for different aspects. And one of them is called dreaming. When you remember a dream, what do you remember of a dream, right? There's always a picture or a series of pictures associated with that. But I never heard anybody told me, hey, Dr. Salas, I remember only the smell or the taste of my dream. No, there's always a picture associated with that. So that's how your subconscious mind works with picture. That's why it's 1 million times faster, because the picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And there's the symbolism in the picture, but you cannot even describe by writing, by thinking, because it's symbolism, the archetype, and all the collective consciousness is in that picture. So of course, what we want to do, like when we reprogram your computer, right? Yeah. Since we're talking about program, let's compare the mind to a computer, okay?
They're essentially the same, aren't they? Then technically, because you're programming both. You're going to program your subconscious mind in a computer you program as well. Am I not correct in that theory?
Yes, but let's go more in detail on that. Like that, we can understand. So, like the brain, what is the brain? It's the physical part of your computer. It's your hard drive. The brain is not your mind. Your thoughts are not in your brain. That's the big misunderstanding. Your thoughts are not in the brain. It's only an interface, right? And so, of course, you've got some, area of your brain that light up when you're doing that, right? But this is a consequence of your thinking, right? So let me explore after that down the road. I will explore. So your brain is your hard drive, right? Your subconscious mind is your software. The output of your software is your conscious mind. And your behavior is reflected on the screen of life. So what does it mean? Let's see if I've got lots of empowering belief, right? My program is good quality, by the way. I've got a good software. I'm blessed. I've got a good software, right? Very good quality. So if Pete, you ask me, how are you doing? I say, oh man, what I see on my screen of life, I love it. Never better, and I just doing things. I want to help people. I created that technique. It's wonderful. I can meet amazing people doing podcasts. I help my patient like never before. And life is good, it's great, no problem. But now, if I've got lots of limiting belief, it means the quality of my programming is not that good quality. You're going to ask me, hey, Dr. Salas, how are you doing? I'm going to say, oh, man, life is a struggle. I feel lonely. I'm always anxious or depressed. And nobody loves me. And I'm going to be totally on victim mode. And why me is always happening to me and all that, right? So that's it. So that's why it's so important to get rid of all that negative programming that are controlling our life. Our subconscious mind is controlling our life regardless, for the good and the bad. We don't want the bad, right? Because the bad can be really bad. And when you caught up on those loops that are running, I call that the subconscious stress loop, are running behind the scene constantly, and dictating your present and shaping and molding your future, right? That's not what you want to be. If you want to change, heal, transform yourself, and grow. That's the only way that makes sense.
Yeah, like you said, though, because it's the mainly your subconscious is driving everything, and then everything else is the result of the action of that. And what do you do when you want to change something? You have to train that, and then it'll go outward from there. So basically, essentially, like you're saying, is that the subconscious is where we need to start and work our way out, because everything is a cause and effect from there. So what we do in the subconscious leads to your conscious, and then leads to what you're doing your behavioral wise afterwards.
It's kind of like, you asked me, whatever, there's 3 steps, right? It's kind of like a computer again, right? When you've got a program that doesn't work for you, what are you going to do? You're going to delete that program. You're going to replace with one that, works better for you. And what you're going to see on the screen of life, that's the outcome. That's the outcome that you want. You're going to be happy. So guess what are the 3 steps of a mind clearing system? Number 1, I created a program that allowed you, because you are the one who's going to heal yourself. Remember, we talk about the innate intelligence, your ability to heal yourself. So I'm going to empower you to give you the technology and guiding you through to be able to use 90% of your mind power, right? So let's see. So we do that. First, you get rid, you delete what you don't want, basically, to make it very, very simple, right? So you will customize the deletion program, right? You customize to you, right? I will help you to do that. And after number 2, instead, you don't have to find out what are the limiting beliefs. How can you find out how can you find out some limiting belief who are in your subconscious mind, which is 95% of your mind power, using only 5 or 10% of your mind power? It's not, the odds are now against you, right? It's not going to work out.
Right.
And the good news, you don't need to, you just replace it, right? You just replace, you delete, you replace, like you will do a normal program, right? And so after we're going to download, we're going to download in your subconscious mind what we call the empowering belief, what you want, basically, right? And so we download what you want. And after that's very important. We want to make sure that you create that on your screen of life. You're going to be able to see. We want to make sure that you create that in your life, which is another programming. So basically you delete, you download, and you create. That's that simple.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think it's so great. I think how that you're empowering the person to do it themselves. It's like you're putting the responsibility in them. They can't say, "Well, Dr. Allen, you didn't do nothing right." No, you didn't do the homework. I gave you the steps. I gave you the tools. It's time for you to be an adult and take care of this problem on your own.
Well, we'll do it together. We'll do it together. There's not even it's not an accountability things. We'll do it together, and I'm guiding you and helping you, but you are the ones going to visualize the picture that you don't want, right? And after I will ask you, so we're going to delete that. So that's coming from you. When you empower people to heal themselves, that's the holy grail of healing, meaning there's no better than that. Because before I will say, we'll check on a list of emotion and I will muscle test it. And I will say, you've got that negative emotion that is bothering you. You don't have to trust nobody. You have to just trust yourself, right? Just to do it yourself. There's less people in between, less intermediary, right? So you are doing the healing. I'm just guiding you. It's a teamwork, right? And if you're stuck, I will, I help you to unstuck because I created that thing, right? I've got experience about it, right? And so we can do that, but that's truly you healing yourself. Just giving you the technology and some guidance to do it. That's it. And so that's wonderful, but just amazing. And number 2, after you visualize the opposite of that picture, which is what you want, right? That's the representation, the symbolic representation of of what you want. That's your empowering belief, right? And after number 3, we create, right? And so create, it's another program just to make sure. So I've got a question for you now. Right? Why not? Can I ask you a question?
Go right ahead.
All right. Do you believe that your mind can create pain?
I don't think it is. I think it's more of the electrical pulses your brain sends to your muscles that are the reaction of pain. To me personally, is what it is. My little understanding of the brain myself.
So let me talk. I say your mind. I didn't say the brain. Okay. But anyway, so let me talk to you about something we call that the placebo effect. Okay. So what is that? So let's see, when they do double-blind, research study, what they do, they say they take some. Let's see, I'm going to a study, and we're going to try that pill, and that pill is supposed to get rid of my heartburn. Okay, Pete? Supposed to get rid of my heartburn. So I'm there. They give me the pill. They say, if you take that pill, no more heartburn. I take the pill. Yeah, man, Pete, it's working. I have no more heartburn. The only thing they tell me said, actually, the pill was a sugar pill.
The placebo
so my
effect,
belief, right? So my belief, right? My belief that the pill will cure me. So they call that the placebo effect and kind of brush it up, right? That's something. That's how healing works, man. That's how it works. That's how true healing works. If you've got the empowering belief that for some reason that taking pills is going to help you, it's going to work for you.
But we've been programmed that all our life that pills help, like Tylenol, Advil, all these different things, it's always a pill. Notice that? Or
Yeah,
these medicines will help. A lot of times these doctors nowadays with younger kids, they're like, no, no, let them build an immune system because all we're doing is we're bandaging it. We're not letting them build an immune system. And I remember that when my kids were younger, that the doctor used to say that. We had one doctor, she had a little different thinking than most doctors. She was like, no, no, they're sick. Just let them be sick for a little bit. Let them build that immune system up. They don't need any medicine right now because my ex was always trying to tell them, oh, hey, no, they need medicine. They need medicine. And the doctor's like, no, no, they don't. They need to build an immune system. They're young. That's what they need to do. Their bodies need to learn how to fight these things off. I know it's hard to watch, but you got to let them learn. They got to teach their bodies how to learn how to fight these diseases or fight all these other things. We can't keep just giving them all this stuff that's not going to do them any good. In the end of the day, we're not helping them. We're hurting them.
Exactly. But the point is what? How powerful our mind are.
Exactly.
So let me introduce another thing. It's called the nocebo effect. And that's what you're talking about, basically. And so the nocebo effect is this. Again, same study, right? And they tell me, you know what, Dr. Salas, if you take that pill, you may have no heartburn, but you may experience a headache. That's a part of a side effect, right?
Yeah.
So I take the pill, I've got a headache. What the heck, right? And so they told me, you know what you had, Dr. Salas, is the sugar pill. So the belief that the pill will give me the headache, which is a negative thing, right? I created that headache.
Yeah.
So that's how they program us, like all the things you were mentioning, right? Prior, in our discussion, they are called the nocebo effect. So if they put fear over you, if they say, oh, you need to buy that product over and over again, which is not necessarily good for us, right? And all that, that's the nocebo effect. And the nocebo effect is much more spread out than the placebo effect.
Yeah.
Because we've got more limiting belief, right? And so that's how they program limiting belief. So do you think that if I take a pill and instead of telling me I've got a headache and they're going to tell me you're going to have neck pain, and I've got the neck pain. So now my question is again, do you think that the mind can create pain in your body?
Yes, because like you just said, your mind is the one creating the headache, which basically makes sense. So if you think about it, because a lot of these commercials, if you're watching them, it'll say all the side effects, and it's like, why would you tell everybody? Like, I get that you're supposed to listen to that stuff, but that's why you never notice why they're so low talking when they say it, though. That's probably why it makes sense, though, because your brain will start hearing those, and if you were to take that, you're like, oh, I'm going to start experiencing all these things. So you start your mindset starts going on, all that kind of stuff will start creating these problems for you that aren't there. Because I have that same effect too with some people. Like I'm taking the Ozempic as an example. Okay, so I'm taking it, but I don't have the same side effects or the problems that people have. Everybody's like, oh, I have all these problems. I'm like, I don't have any of those issues. I don't know I've never experienced any of those things. They're like, oh no, it's all these things. I'm like, but to now, it's me wondering now. It's like, I wonder if their mindset, they're so focused on what the side effects are. That's what's causing it. Like you said, we're causing the headache because they're saying, oh, well, you're going to have a headache, Dr. Allen, and you're like, oh, am I though? Now all of a sudden you're thinking it, your mindset's all focused on it. Now you have the headache essentially because your mindset's creating that headache.
So that's why there's bad news, right? You see, that's why that's how, we can be controlled.
Yeah.
Right. And when we do that, when we live under fear and uncertainty and all that, that's how, you lower kind of your vibration, right? You lose your clarity, you lose your focus, and that's how you become more dependent to the establishment, to whatever you want to say, right?
No,
and so that's how you can be controlled, right? So that's why the nocebo effect is huge. It's really bad. So here we go. Let me rephrase that now. So, do you think that the mind can create pain in your body?
Yes, we already discussed
Do you think that the mind can create symptom in your body?
Yep.
Do you think that the mind can create inflammation in your body?
Yep.
Yes. So that's my program. It's called the body clearing. Right? That's exactly that. Now, do you think that your mind can prevent you to reach your goal?
Yep.
Do you feel that your mind can prevent you to have success in life?
Yes.
So that's the goal and success clearing, right? And the first one is the mind clearing basics. So when you look at limiting belief and you go to the Google, right, and you Google it, what they're going to talk to you about, it's like doubting about yourself, some self-esteem issue, right? I'm not good enough. I'm too old too young to do this, right? Which affect your goal and success, right? But they never told you about pain. They never told you how it just all your decision making are made by your subconscious mind, right? You have to dig furthermore, right? And so those negative programming are much more than some preventing you to reach your goal. That's one part of my program, don't get me wrong. But that create everything in your life. They are controlling, those limiting beliefs are controlling you, definitely. So if you want to change, the only way is just to change them. But like that, what you're going to have on your screen of life, you're going to love it. And let me explore even further. Let's zoom out of what we're talking, in general about the mind. So let's visualize there's the sun, right? And the sun is the divine representation of what you think is the divine. Can be God, can be awareness, can be everything that depends your belief system, right? Yeah. Let's include everybody in that, right? But we know that from the sun, you've got a spark and it creates your spirit, right? And This is all what we call non-duality, where there's no good and bad. It's like kind of pure love, people understand in different ways. There's all there is and has ever been and all that, right? And after you've got the sky and after you've got the physical you and me, right? So Pete, some people, they've got so many clouds in the sky, but they say, there's no sun, doesn't exist. Never felt it, never saw it, right? So what are those clouds that are preventing you to even perceive the sun? Those are the limiting belief, Pete. That's what they are. So when you start to get rid of some limiting belief, well, now you can have a glimpse of the sun. Now you can start to feel the warmth on the sun. And you get rid more and more and more limiting belief. And so what's happened? You are more connected to your spirit. Because what we have been told is a lie. We have been told we are only our self-identity. We have been told we're only 5 or 10% of our mind. But truly who we are a spiritual being living a physical experience. And when you start to awake to that thought, everything is different. You realize how powerful we are because everybody talk about having superpower and things like that. We were born like this. We were conceived like this. It's after all those programs that get in our way and disconnected from our spirit. When at conception, for sure, at conception, we are all that. We are that 100% connected to the spirit. And after, like you can, for example, if your mom and you're in the belly, right, had some bad experiences, of course that can impact you and create some limiting belief, right? And some limiting belief can be passed on from generation to generation, right? As form of energy, right? And so, but for sure, we all have that. So we can getting back. And I think why this kind of things is happening now, it's because now we are in a crossroad. So either we go with transhumanism, right? Just putting some stuff in our body, become semi-human and machine, and maybe controlled by AI and all that. Or we can be more connected to our spirit. That's the other way. We become more what it means to be human, right? And more become and be more connected to our spirit and become even more human. And I think that, I know some people is going to go that way, transhumanism and all that, but that's their choice, that's their lives. But, this opened another choice now, that always has been there, but maybe make it easy to reconnect to our spirit and really understand who we truly are.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I like the opposite route because I think that's where you're heading towards is like energy healing and spiritual, all that other kind of stuff. This stuff that more people are starting to look into now, alternatively, which I think a lot of people are realizing now that it's really effective more than they realize. Like, and I've had this thing last week. I had a bunch of energy healers just by fate. They all landed in the same row, and we were talking about it all the time. And it was so interesting to me because it's something I've been fascinated by ever since I had a guest a while back that we discussed it originally. And, and it makes sense. So if you lines up to everything I'm seeing, like all these different things I'm feeling, all these things I'm experiencing, it makes more sense, and now you said it, like I said, we're all heading towards the alternative side, which is anything that's over here versus the normal where our mindset usually takes us to. And I think it's great, though, because we're using our own bodies to heal ourselves. We're not using just strictly what the norm is nowadays. It's just all this negative programming. Everybody just keeps feeding you. But these guys are breaking off, and you'll see, as usual, once something new comes, everybody's gonna be resistant. Oh no, there's all this negative talk about it. But as people start experiencing it, they'll start going, oh hey, never mind. Wait, maybe this guy's onto something, or maybe they're telling me something I didn't realize. And I love it, honestly. I'm so fascinated by everything. Everything fascinates me. So like I definitely, after we're done talking, I'm going to your website. I'm going to start looking into all this stuff because I love it. I love exactly you're saying, speaking exactly to me about everything I love to hear. It's more stuff I can learn. I'm there. I love it. I love the fact that I can reprogram myself to be a better Pete versus, this other Pete that's been just negative all this time, and things like that. And slowly I've been progressing towards the other side, as and I've been reprogramming myself to be somebody different than I never was before. And I like it though. I love it though, because one, it's pissing people off because, some people don't like what you have to say. And it's like, and then at the end of the day, it's okay. Listen, I may not be your cup of tea and you may not like what I'm talking about. Okay, cool. Well, there's plenty of that other stuff out there. I'm not drinking the negative Kool-Aid. I'm going the proverbial other side here where I'm loving everything that's happened over here because I'm getting some more information. I'm getting more fascinated by things because it's all starting to line up and make sense. Whatever entity it is, like you said, I'm feeling that sun ray and everything else hitting me. And it's great. It's sunny on this side versus this side where it was just dark and cloudy. I'm like, yeah, I'm not liking that. I like the warmth over here, though.
Yeah, and it comes down to a couple of things. The first things, we have been told we are only physical being, right? And so what our sense can perceive, that's all we are. But we know, even with our mind, that 95% we don't perceive it, and it's so much more powerful, right? And also that we are energy, right? We are all vibrating beings. When you look, and this is science, this is quantum physics science, it's not something out of the blue because I want to say that, right? But everything comes down to this, a wave.
Yep.
So everything is a wave, and if you go deeper and deeper into the molecular aspect, that's what you see, everything vibrates. Yep. Right, and create that. And so when I did with these techniques, I had really a breakthrough. First of all, when I was able to treat pain, because I don't know anybody that can do that, right? And so when I was able to treat pain, I said, man, meanings that if you got pain even for a decade, 20 years, doesn't matter, it's on your program, right? And so 70 to 80%, that's the kind of result I'm experiencing now. 70 to 80% of the people within maximum 2 visits, the pain is gone, doesn't come back anymore.
Right. It's crazy, isn't it? Just like people are now getting, the more evidence stuff you have and the more people are getting it, those people are going to go tell more people, basic marketing strategies that they're going to go tell their people, hey man, I've been trying this thing. You got to check this out. You got to come see Dr. Allen. You got to see what he's doing. After 2 visits, I'm feeling amazing. And, people little by little, it's going to cause that contagious change. And people are going to start seeing things from the side that we're going towards.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to be open-minded, because we think that knowledge is stagnant. We think that truth is stagnant. We think that freedom is stagnant. No, it's not. It's always evolving. More knowledge you're getting, more you can see the truth, right? Better you can see the truth. More clarity and focus you're getting, right? And so it's like we never stagnant. We always want to evolution, right? It's the key, right? You cannot say I don't want to change. I remember one guy told me I don't want to change. I said, well, you are you suicidal? Because it means you don't, to me, but you don't like life, right? That's what life is about. And so, my biggest breakthrough on that technique, it took me 3 years, and I was really focusing on pain to monitor my progress, because pain is there or not, it's kind of objective in a way, right?
Yeah.
And so it's when I created what we call be able to recreate by my reprogramming the electromagnetic field around the human being, which is like, we call that the torus, Torus, and you can look it up and you will see there's a electrical current going this way and after going all around us. And that's our energetical thing. That's why everything is coming from there, not from your brain. The brain is only an interface, that will go and into your nervous system, right? And so I wrote a book, The Brain Power Secret. So I got interested about the brain, and what I figured out mainly, it's like your second brain is the most important, and your second brain is the belly. If your gut are not healthy, there's no way your brain can function very well. You will have brain fog and so many different things, right? And so the brain is important, but it's not what everybody wants to portray. Again, is giving more credit to the physical, what we can see, what we can perceive, which is 5 or 10% of our world. If you look at it, it's only 5 or 10% of our world, right? And so being able to access to the 90% and 95%, it's like a blessing. It's life changing, and you can do it on your own. Because if you want to learn that technique, the good news is like, okay. The bad news is you can say, oh man, I've been programmed. Good news, if you've been programmed, you can reprogram yourself. That's the good news, right? And that's how I see it, right? You see what I mean?
Exactly. And turn your negative into a positive, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can do it yourself, right? I teach that technique, right, to anybody, because I think it's our birthright to get connected as matter as our spirit. You know, that's what this is about. That's really what this is about. That's what we are alive, I think, and that's my belief anyway. And so you can do that.
Keep it going. Keep it going, Dr. Allen. You just keep saying it, buddy. I love it. I absolutely love it.
And so what you can do, we're empowering ourselves, right? Exactly. And so, but the good news, we've got the technology now to do it yourself. You don't need to depend to anybody. And even if you are too sick, for example, to work on yourself, like me or somebody else that I'm teaching, you know, they can do that to help you, right? Because sometimes we need help. But you're going to use your own ability to heal yourself. So not only that, you can transform yourself, but you can help your loved one. You don't need anybody, right? You can, your kids got pain for like for a few days and things like that. You can help him to reprogram, right? You've got your dad that has been, you know, under stress for a long time. You don't need no PhD on health. You don't need no PhD on relationship and no PhD on business to reach your goal, right? You just need to reprogram yourself. That's it. When you know that technology and you can apply to help others, you are so much more powerful, and you realize truly how powerful we are. You know, I'm going to have a hat, you know, and it's going to be written here, YASP. You are so powerful.
There you go.
And we don't have any idea how powerful we are. We don't have any idea. You know, even I, which, you know, I treat myself all that, but I realize, you know, I'm so much more powerful. And there's one more thing that I want to zoom out. Because, you know, here's the problem in our society. We're too much in our head. So we're always thinking. Why? Because we have been taught the only way to think is to resolve problem, right? Well, a problem is not necessarily a good thing, right? A problem is a problem, right? And so on top of that, when you resolve a problem, guess what, Pete? There's another problem to be resolved.
Right, exactly.
It's a never-ending story. So that's why when you look at the stats, 80% of our mind are negative. 80% our thoughts are negative. 95% of our thoughts are the same thought that we had the day before. So we like the hamster on the wheel, always running, always was programmed by the subconscious mind, running, and they are working against us. That's why there's so many mental issues, emotional issues, behavior issues, and that's why, you know, we think life is so hard. You know, that you have to work hard and all that. Says who? The people who want to employ you. That's it. So you see, so that's the world can be so much different. In order to change your world, that's one of my favorite quotes, you know, change yourself. Be the change you want to see in the world, right? And that's the only way you can do it. You cannot change the world by overpower some people, you know, with military action or whatever. You cannot overpower with money, you know. No, you can change the world by changing yourself and be more connected to your spirit. And more there's people more connected to their spirit. That's how we can change it. That's the only way. And that's why I'm so animated about that. Because it's not only about you as an individual to get better. That's why it starts, don't get me wrong, right? But it's also how it's going to impact energetically all the other people in the planet. And we don't need a lot of people, right? But we do need more people than that to change what's going on right now.
Exactly. I love it. Well, Dr. Allen, we're going to wrap up this episode of Pete for Society. Do you want to go ahead and let people know where they can find you? You know, plug your website so they know where to go find all this great information. And in fact, if they want to reach out to you, where can they get you at?
Yeah, so the easy way is just to go to my website. It's called themindclearing.com. There's a contact information. You press on contact, you've got a form right there, right? And also you've got my email. And so if they're coming from you, Pete, because, you know, it's good to talk about things, right? That's wonderful, right? That's why podcasts exist, but it's so much better to experience it because that's true knowledge, right? So if you want to experience the work, you will have a treatment personally with me. It's going to take an hour to reprogram whatever you want, right? And whatever you don't want, basically, should I say.
All right,
And
definitely.
so you will get 20% off, right?
Heck yeah. Oh, hell
Mentioning
yeah.
the
I'm definitely looking into it for sure. Hell yeah, I'm
Pete,
interested.
yeah, Pete versus anxiety. That's number one. Number two, if you want to learn that technique for yourself, right? Or also if you are a coach or a health professional that really want to go deep to the cause of a problem and result, and help your client or patient to transform their life, their relationship, their prosperity, and make sure they can grow as much, as they want. You can help other people to do that, obviously, right? And so if you learn the mind clearing basic and you learn the goal clearing, remember goal and success clearing, and the body clearing, I give 50% off of the entire program, right? And so that's it. Just what I want to say also, it's like for people who think that there's no more hope for them, they feel that they went everywhere and tried everything with no success. That's because they didn't find out, or they didn't tell you what was your real cause of your problem, right? And so again, when you find the cause of a problem, you know how to fix it. The fix it aspect is obviously the tool given by the mind clearing. That's it. You can change. You can get better. You can get rid of your anxiety. You can get rid of your depression or whatever's bothering you, right? We can reprogram those limiting beliefs, those negative programming that are dictating your present and molding your future. You can be a totally different person. Now, there's one thing. You're not responsible for all those programming, right? Especially when you were a kid from 0 to 7. But you are responsible now with all that knowledge to change them.
Exactly. I love it. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming, Dr. Allen. I really appreciate
No problem,
it. I'm
Pete.
so glad we got to do this.
My pleasure.
You guys know where to find me. I'm Pete for Anxiety, pretty much everything. X down to TikTok. I'm a Spotify down to iHeartRadio. And as always say, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you can do to save somebody's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete for Anxiety, signing off saying, hey, don't ask how your day is. And say, hey, how's your mental health today?